Good morning, children. Welcome to online class. This is Sheila, your computer science teacher. In last class, we saw chameleon problem and sparrow problem. Right, six trees were there of equal distance. Six sparrows were there. We saw that problem as well. And here we are dealing with algorithmic strategies. Good morning, children. Welcome to online class. This is Sheila, your computer science teacher. In last class, we saw chameleon problem and sparrow problem, right? Six trees were there of equal distance, six sparrows were there. We saw that problem as well. And here we are dealing with algorithmic strategies, isn't it? Invariance concept. And now let us see another example, which is jar of marbles. Let me go through this question for you now. You are given a jar full of two kinds of marbles. So what are you being given with? A jar full of two kinds of marbles. One was black, the other one was white. And you are asked to play this game. What are we going to do now? We are going to randomly select two marbles from the jar. What am I going to do now? I am going to pick two marbles from the jar. If they are of same color, what will I do is, I will throw both out. Yes. I will throw them out and put only one black marble in. And let us also assume that we have also few spare marbles. If they are of different colors, what will happen? If they are of different colors, put the white one back into the jar and throw black one away. Clear? Different colors means I will throw black one away and I will put white one inside. If you know the original number of white and black marbles, what is the color of the last marble in the jar? Let us proceed with this now. Look at the state now. What do we have? We have white marbles and black marbles. Yes, in case if I am going to choose two black marbles, what I have to do? I have to throw both outside and I have to place one black inside. Isn't it? And in case if it is going to be black and white, I'll be what will I do? I will place one white inside and I'll throw black outside. And if both are white, I'll throw all the black outside. All the white outside and I'll place only black inside. Is that clear? Now, the number of white marbles and black marbles in the jar can be represented by two variables. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to use variables to represent white and black marbles. W represents white. Very good. Black is being represented with B. Each iterative step, what happens? B and W changes depending on the colors of two marbles taken out. Yes or no? What will I do? I'll be picking up each and every marbles of every time, isn't it? So, how the pick can be? It can be like this. First time black black, next time black and white, third time white white. Anything it can be. But the picking strategy is going to be this. Yes, now let us annotate this with an algorithm. While at least two marbles in the jar. Now let us consider if there is two marbles in the jar, black and white. Take out any two marbles. At least it means it must be more than two. Right? Two and more. Taken out at any two marbles. Case is the one that we picked now is going to be black. So both the marbles that I have chosen now for the first trip is going to be black and black. What is the rule now? If it is going to be black black, I have to throw both the black outside and I have to place one black inside. So what will be the rule now? White will remain the same because I haven't taken any white outside. But black, what will happen? One black will get reduced, isn't it? Because we are throwing two blacks and placing one black inside it means I am removing one black. What else we are doing now? What will be the B plus W value now? B plus W minus 1 because we have reduced 1 from that jar. Now in case if both are going to be white, the marbles that I pick, what will happen? Both the white will be going out and I will be placing one black inside. So what will be the formula now? See, B will be adding up with 1. Since it is both white, what will happen? White all I'll throw outside, isn't it? So what will happen? What will be the formula now? B plus W minus 1. Because again, the jar, this is all about the jar. For jar, what happens? If I am removing 2, I am adding 1. So 1 only will be removed, isn't it? B plus W, B plus 1 plus W minus 2. So B plus W minus 1. Fine. If I am throwing, if I pick black and white, what will happen? I'll throw the black one and I'll put white one inside. So now what will happen? Black one will be reduced, white one will remain the same because I am placing it back, and B plus W again will be B plus W minus 1. Able to follow, kids? Let me repeat again. See, this is just a game. Think like that. An urn is there and I am placing marbles inside. For the first time when I pick, it is of same colors. Black, black. Black means I have to place one black inside, isn't it? So when I remove 2 and place 1 back, what happens? It will be minus 1 now. The urn will be reduced by 1. And if they are going to be fully white, what will happen? 2 marbles will be going on and black will be placed again. Again what happens? An urn will be reduced by 1. Yes? In case if both are, if they are of different colors, black and white will be going inside and black will be going out, isn't it? So what happens? That time also one will be getting reduced. The question is, what will be the last color? Yes, for each case, how W and BW change is shown in the algorithm, where B and W are values or the variables before taking out 2 marbles. Notice the way W changes. Either it does not change or decreases by 2. This means the parity of W, whether it is odd or even, does not change. The parity of W is invariant. Suppose at the start of the game W is even. When the game ends, W is still even. Moreover, only 1 marble is left. W plus B will be equal to 1. Isn't it? What we are doing is, at the start of the game, W was even. At the end of the game, still W will be even. Right? So, moreover, only 1 marble will be left. So, W plus B is equal to 1. Now, let us take this as an end of the loop. W plus B is equal to 1, which is the end of the loop. W can either be 0 or equal to 1, isn't it? Because we have chosen that W is going to be even, it means the last can be white. So W is even still. So it is loop invariant. W is 0 from 2, 3. B is equal to 1 from 1, 4. Last marble must be black. Similarly, if at the start of the game there is an odd number of whites, the last marble must be white. In case if there is odd number, white means it may go, but whereas because it may be 0 or even. In case if it is going to have odd numbers of white, what will happen? The last marble must be white. One last question. Do we ever reach a state with only 1 marble? Yes, because the total number of marbles B plus W always decreases by 1 at each step. It will eventually become 1. The next topic is recursion. What is recursion? Calling by itself. Recursion is an algorithm design technique closely related to induction. It is very similar to your iteration but more powerful. Using recursion, we can solve a problem with a given input by solving the instances of the given problem with a part of the input. Now let us take how it is actually working. Customers are waiting in a line at a counter. The man at the counter wants to know how many customers are waiting in the line. The problem is this. The line is there. The man at the counter wants to know how many customers are there waiting in the line. As I told you, recursion is nothing but calling by itself. Instead of counting the line, look at this picture, you can understand very clearly what is actually happening. A will question the length to B. B will question the length to C. C will question the length to D. D will question the length to E. They will ask how many numbers behind. Right? First, as it reaches the last one, he will say 1. Yes? Again, in the reverse manner, the count will continue. Instead of counting, see, what is it? He replies, The person with no one behind replies 1 to D, who asked him. D replies 1 plus 2, 1 plus 1 2 is equal to 2 to C. C replies 1 plus 2 is equal to 3 to B. B replies 1 plus 3 is equal to 4 to A, and A replies 1 plus 4 is equal to 5 to the man in the counter. How it is actually moving? The query is actually reaching the last customer in the line. When he turns up and he sees that there is no person available, when he reaches and he finds that there is no person available, he tells that there is no one behind, only one. The previous man says that there is one behind, so 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. The previous man, it just reaches from the last to the first. Yes, this is actually called as recursive process. Now, illustrate a recursive process. Let us represent the sequence of 5 customers as A, B, C, D and E. The problem is to calculate the length of the sequence A, B, C, D and E. Let us name our solver length. If we pass the sequence as input, the solver length should output the length of the sequence. Length A, B, C, D, E is going to be 5. The solver breaks the sequence A, B, C, D, E into its first customer and the rest of the sequence. First, A, B, C, D, E. What will he say? A. The rest will be B, C, D, E. To solve the problem recursively, this length, the length passes the reduced sequence as input to a solver, subsolver. So what happens? First, it will be A, B, C, D, E, where A is removed. The rest, what will be there? B, C, D, E. Now what will happen? As E reaches, B will be the first and C, D, E will be on the rest. Yes, the solver assumes that the subsolver reaches, as it reaches, the length will be reduced, isn't it? As it keeps reducing, what will happen? It is just going to be called as a subsolving problem. So what will be the length? How do we calculate the length now? A plus B plus C plus D plus E, right? So actually A, B, C, D, E is the first sequence. How will he calculate? 1 plus length of B, C, D, E. Each solver receives an input first, passes the input of reduced size to the subsolver, receives the solutions to the reduced input from the subsolver and produces a solution to the given input. Yes, input reaches. As it reaches, the solver will get the solution and he will pass it to the next. Here what happens? We will receive input only first. What do? We receive input first, and that input will be what I'll say, that he will use and he will try to solve the problem himself. That is what is actually happening. Repeatedly, that is what will happen. Yes. Each solver reduces the size of the input by 1 and passes it on to the subsolver, resulting in 5 solvers. This continues until the input received by the solver is small enough to output the solution directly. So what happens? See, as the output gets reduced by each and every person, yes, the input is going to be very, very small, isn't it? So what happens is, till the input becomes very small for the person to produce solution, the process will be continued. The last solver received E as the input, and E is smallest enough because he had no person back, isn't it? So the solver outputs the length of E as 1 immediately and the recursion stops. First, it reaches what? What is the length? Length. As it reaches E, what happens? As it reaches E, he says it is 1. This person looking behind says there is 1 person behind, which is equal to 2. On this person looking behind, he says 2 person behind, which is equal to 3. And this person looking behind says 3 person behind me, which is equal to 4. And this person looking behind says there is 4 person behind, which is equal to 5. The question is actually being passed from this place to this. So what happens? The rest gets reduced. So a recursive process for length A, B, C, D, E is shown in 8.7. Let us see here. Length was A, B, C, D, E. How did we reduce it? 1 plus length of B, C, D, E. The back person. Next again what happens? 1 plus length of C, D, E. Next what will be the process? 1 plus 1 plus length of C, D, E. The process will be continued. So what is the length of sequence? 1 plus length of the tail. To solve a problem recursively, what the solver has to do? It has to reduce the size of the problem as sub-problems. So what happens here? The big problem will be divided into sub-problems. And that solver is termed as sub-solver to solve a sub-problem. When a solver calls a sub-solver, it is known as recursive call. What is recursive call? A solver will be calling a sub-solver. Yes, calling by itself. The magic of recursion allows the solver to assume that the sub-solver outputs the solution to the sub-problem. Then, from the solution to the sub-problem, the solver constructs the solution to the given problem. As the sub-solver goes on reducing the problem into sub-problems of smaller sizes, eventually the sub-problem becomes small enough to be solved directly without recursion. Able to follow? What happens is, see, a solver is here. A solver moves to the sub-solver. Yes, this sub-solver will further reduce the problem into small. So he will be called as sub-solver now. What happens is the solution will be passing on within itself. Yes. So what happens is, still what will it be continued? Till the size of the problem becomes small for the person to solve it. Once when it is getting solved, what will happen? Again, it will be able to combine to provide a required solution. This is called as recursion. Now let us move on with base case. What is base case? The problem size is small enough to be solved directly. Output the solution. There must be at least one best case. What is recursion step? The problem size is not small enough. Deconstruct the problem into sub-problems strictly smaller in size than the given problem. Call a sub-solver to solve the sub-problem. Assume that the sub-solver outputs the solution to the sub-problem. Construct the solution to the given problem. This outline of the recursion problem solving technique is shown below. First, what happens? Solver gives the input. If the input is small enough, construct the solution. If not, what we have to do? We have to find sub-problems till the problem gets reduced. Yes, solution of sub-problem is equal to solver of each sub-problems. Construct solution to the problem from the solutions of the sub-problems. Whenever we solve a problem using the recursion, we have to ensure that these two cases, what is it? In the recursion step, the size of the input to the recursive call is strictly smaller than the size of the given input, and there is at least one base case. Now the recursion algorithm for the length of sequence can be written like this. How can it be written? Length of yes. What are we going to get? Yes as the input. And what should be the output now? Output should be length of yes. If yes has one character, base case will be 1. If not, 1 plus length of tails, because this is going to be a recursive step, because each and every person has to go back to find the solution. Design a recursive algorithm to compute a power n. We constructed an iterative algorithm to compute a power n. Now what are we going to do? We are just going to find a power n now. A power n, where when a power n is equal to 0, what will happen? The value will be equal to 1. Anything power 0 is equal to 1. If not, what is the value for it? How do we write the formula? A power n is equal to a into a power n minus 1. The recursive definition can be expressed as a recursive solver for computing power a comma n. Power of a comma n. Inputs n as an integer where n is greater than or equal to 0. N must be greater than or equal to 0. Output, if n is equal to 0, then what will be the value? A power 0 is equal to 1. Now we are getting into a recursive step. In case if it is going to be a power 5, yes, 2 power 5, what will be the value? 2 into a power what? 4. Yes, the process will be continued. Again, we have to find the value for a power 4. The recursive process would solve for calculating 2 comma 5. Again, they have taken the same that we have taken, isn't it? 2 power 5. What will happen? N will be equal to 5 now. Again, as it gets reduced, a power n minus 1, right? 2 comma 4. Next 2 comma 3, 2 comma 2, 2 comma 1, and finally comes the 2 comma 0. So what is the value of a power 0? It is 1. Yes, keep the value with you. What is the value of 2 into 1? It is 2. Yes, take this 2 and this 1. Again, 2 comma 2 it is going to be 4 now. Again, 2 comma 3 it is going to be what? 2 into 2 it is going to be 4. 2 into 2 it is going to be 4 now. Yes, see, we shall proceed from the bottom. Initially it was 1. 2 into 1. Yes, took this 1 here. 2 into 1 it was 2. Take this 2 here. 2 into 2 it was 4. It was 4. Take this 4 here. 2 into 4 it is going to be what? 8. It is going to be 8. 8 into 2 it is going to be 16. Take the 16 here, and 2 into 16 it is going to be 32. What step it is? Recursive step. We divided the big problem into small problems, and we will reconstruct the problem to get the final solution. This is what is called as what? Recursion. The recursive process results like this. How they have taken 2 into, we have to calculate power of 2 comma 5. What is the formula for calculating a power n, 2 power n, 2 power 5? It is going to be what? A into 2 into a power n minus 1. What is n value here? A power n. It is 5 minus 1. 2 into 2 power 4. Yes, 2 into 2 power 4. That is what we are writing as 2 comma 4. Again, what will happen? This 2 will remain as it is. This power of 2 comma 4. For this we have to find the solution. Now what we will take? 2 power 4. What will be? 2 into 2 power 3. Power of 2 comma 3. This 2 again. Add it up here. The process will continue till what? Till you get 2 comma 0. Yes, power 2 comma 0. 2 power 0 is going to be 1. With this we will stop. And not we stop with this. What happens is, here after getting the final solution, it will be reduced. Again the value will get reduced. 2 to 4. Again 4 to 8. Then 8 to 16. Then 16 to 32. The process just gets reduced. What happens? The problem will be divided into sub-problems first, and the sub-problems will give you a final solution. With that final solution, what do? We construct a value. Yes, this is termed as what? This is termed as recursive process. Girls, this is a corner cover. This is a game that we play usually. Okay, a corner covered board is a board of 2 power n into 2 power n squares, in which the square at one corner is covered with a single square tile. A trinomial is a L-shaped tile formed with 3 adjacent squares. An L-shaped trinomial will have 3 adjacent squares. Cover the corner covered board with L-shaped trinomials without overlap. Trinomials can be rotated as needed. They have just given that this is the square that is actually being given, and they wanted to place this corner covered trinomials. You can place it however you want, such that what happens? It should not overlap with your square. Yes, this is a problem that is being given. Now it is your try that you are going to do now. Yes, try it out and answer me in your next class. I will solve this in your next class and continue with your next lesson. Thank you, children.